today, on today's Intrepid Songwriter Live, is clearing samples. Clearing samples. I have discovered that there's more myths and misunderstanding about clearing samples than almost anything else. Okay? So the first thing I want to tell you about clearing samples is that most of the stuff you've heard is cap. There's no 2-second rule. There's no 5-second rule. There's no 4-beat rule. You can't take other people's intellectual property and just use it as you see fit. Okay? This seems to really confuse people because they don't understand the difference that they think that there's a difference in terms of ownership between physical property and intellectual property. Okay? So just like you can't walk over to somebody and snatch the cap off their head, just like you can't jump in somebody's car and take it for a joyride, just like you can't do all of that, you can't just take other people's music and use it without their permission. You can't do it, okay? It's illegal. There's no rules. There's no exceptions. Just because it happens a lot, that's where people have grown up with the idea because of people taking samples and using it, that it was okay. It's not okay, okay? It's never been okay. It's never going to be okay. You can't just take other people's music and use it in your track, okay? Now, probably the most famous case, and I'm going to share my screen on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. I can't really do this on Insta. But probably one of the most famous cases, the case that kicked everything off, was the idea of Rapper's Delight and Good Times. Now, Good Times was a song released by Chic. We're talking about way back in the 70s, so we're going way back in the day. When Rapper's Delight came out, Rapper's Delight was the rap song that kind of broke rap out. It was really funny in the 70s, but it was built on the music from Good Times from Chic. So the case is way more complicated than what I'm saying because, you know, some people died, label owners changed hands. There were some artists and musicians that never actually got paid, even with the settlement. So it's very, very complicated. So I'll put the link to the article I'm referencing in the description box underneath here so you can check it out for yourself. But the point I want to focus on is that it took them 40 years and they kept fighting and kept fighting and kept fighting to get a settlement. Because when you build a song and that song is a hit and you've built it off a sample from somebody else, you owe them royalties from wherever you got that sample from. You can't just take their music and use it. You can't do it. Okay? And so what you need to know is how to clear your samples, which I've discovered a lot of people don't know how to clear samples. If you want to clear samples, you have to get 2 licenses. You have to get 2 licenses. You have to get one license for the PA, which covers the composition, which is the melody and the lyrics, the song on paper. You have to pay the owner of the composition or the PA copyright to use their melody and their lyrics. But you also have to pay the owner of the sound recording. Who owns the sound recording? So for you to properly clear samples requires 2 payments, one for each one of the copyrights involved in the sample. So you can't just, again, you can't just gank them and then use them, okay? Now, I know what you're gonna say. They say, but what about all those quote unquote free sites on YouTube? My response to that is to read the fine print, okay? If the music is released under a Creative Commons license, that means they're giving you permission to use the beat or the music as much as you want, and no royalties are owed. And sometimes you don't even have to give them name credit. You don't have to give name credit to where you got the original beat, but sometimes you do. Okay, that's called attribution. So sometimes you do have to list on all of your websites, all of your material, where you got the original beat from, but sometimes you don't. but it will be a clear Creative Commons license if that is what the beat is released under. That's what makes it quote unquote free. It has to say Creative Commons license, that you're free to use it without any royalties being paid. Some of those quote unquote free channels and free sites are just traps. The producers there are trying to get you to take their beat and use it. And then if your song blows up, they're going to come after you later and say, hey, that's my beat. You know, you might have licensed it, but you didn't own it. And the license was just for rent and all that. Now you owe me money. Now you owe me royalties because you used my beat on a song that blew up. Yes, they are. Not all of them, but some of them do that. So that's why I'm telling you, if you're going to get quote unquote free beats from any website and any YouTube channel, then somewhere on that site, it must say this music is being released under a Creative Commons license, meaning they created it, but they're making it free for you to use and no royalties are owed. And then you also have to look and see if they require name attribution, where you have to give credit to where you originally got the beat from. If it's under Creative Commons and they don't require anything, then it's free to use. But it's not exclusive, meaning that other people can also use that beat to make a song. That's not exclusive when it's under Creative Commons like that. Okay? If you want to use a beat exclusively, you must contact the producer, and the producer must sell you a exclusive license so that no one else can use that beat but you. And that is still not selling you the full rights to the beat. The producer still owns the beat. They're taking money from you to a license that says they won't license that beat to anyone else. But it's still their beat. They still own it. So you ought to be able to see that this stuff is really complicated. It's really complex. And I don't want anybody just jumping out there, just taking music, thinking you can just use those beats and that's the end of it. No, you can't. And no, it's not. Okay? So don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my channel, share this video as many places as you can. If you need some more information or clarification, or if you want to understand the process point by point, or if you think you may have messed up and you want to get some help before you get in trouble, book a session with me. Go to my website, theintrepid.songwriter.com, click on Hire Me, and then you can click on whatever session you like in order to book some one-on-one time, a one-on-one session, and I can walk you through this process, particularly for your samples, your beats, or whatever it is you're doing in your music project. All right? That's it for today's Friday Live. I will see you next Friday. I've been on vacation, but I'm back. So I will see you next Friday for the next Intrepid Songwriter Live. Intrepid Songwriter, out.